Hi, my name is Lulu. I'm a compulsive overeater. And today we're going to talk about the last promise in this promises booklet that we started out with here, that we're going to eventually post a link on the blog spot. There'll be a link to this booklet called um, it has a name and it's somewhere right here. And I can't, oh, it's, oh, no, I don't know what it's called. What's the book called? The Promises of Sobriety, something like that. Oh, here it is. No wonder why. The Promises of Sobriety. Yeah. So once we get this, we're going to get this up on the blog spot with all the 12 promises. And this is the last one we're going to share on. And the promise is called The Promises Evolve Through Effort. So that's the last promise. And I'm going to read what it says. It's a couple paragraphs. The 12th promise sums up all others and is probably the most rewarding of all. It asserts all the promises of sobriety will materialize if we work for them. Whether the promises eventuate quickly or slowly depends on the amount of work we do. It's like taking a picture. We get back what we focus on. Unless we follow instructions in every effort, we are going to lose more than we will win. Patience is a necessity to complete each step of spiritual growth. Patient people see the difference between true solutions and circumstances that are nothing but problems in disguise. In our growth process, we discover winners are tenacious listeners in any learning group, while losers are usually impatient to express their opinions. Growth comes through love. Recovering alcoholics find it's more important to give love than to be loved. Haphazard action will never bring these promises to fruition. We must direct our efforts carefully by knowing what is happening and being among those who are constantly making things happen. Now, I just got shivers up and down my spine. That last sentence. We must direct our efforts carefully by knowing what is happening and being among those who are constantly making things happen. I surround myself with people that are constantly making things happen. They don't have to be great, big, huge things. All the little things materialize if we work for them. And what's really wonderful about this promise is that it's telling me that my promises evolve through effort. So now I've put all my effort into my step work. I've got abstinent, lost 100 pounds, um, maintained it. I've been weighing and measuring my food for 7 years. I don't want to eat any junk anymore. I don't want it. I get it. I get it. My drug is down. And then I worked my steps because I tried doing this program without working steps. That was like back about 20 years ago. And yeah, it didn't work very well. And so this time I came back with a different focus. I focused on making things happen. Okay. So there I was doing my step work, 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 right, 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 work, 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 right, 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 show up at my sponsor's house, do the 3rd step prayer and make my 7th step prayer and then make my amends. And it was all wonderful and amazing things. Like it says in step 9, it says, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we're going to be amazed before we're halfway through. So this phase of our development that they're talking about is the amends process. So I was amazed before I was halfway through. That's where I felt the power of this program, was when I was about halfway through with my amends, because I was feeling the power of those amends. And then did all of these promises that we've been talking about in all these recordings, we find a new freedom. Our regrets subside. We find serenity. Our experiences have value. Self-pity disappears. Interest in others grows. Grandiosity disappears. Our outlook brightens. Our fears decrease. Coping becomes easier. Our spirituality grows. These are huge freaking things. These are huge things. Did they all of a sudden go on like a light switch and all of a sudden I was this like amazing human being? No. You know something? Sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly. They always materialize if we work for them. And the work isn't over when you finish your step work. In fact, it's just the beginning of a whole new design for living. And that's 10, 11, and 12. 10, 11, and 12. Anybody in this program that does not find themselves spiritually maturing as they go on in recovery are probably not working 10, 11, and 12. I need to clean up my today's bullshit. That's what I need to do. I need to enlarge my spiritual life. I don't just sit there in the spiritual life. Right now, I mean, I came in with zippity doo dah spiritual life, okay? Zero. And I was very close minded until somebody gave me the idea, like, how about if you open your mind? And I'm like, oh, really? Like, all right, And I opened my mind. I got curious. Boom. Now I have a God in my life. Is it the same feel 7 years ago as it is 5 years ago? No. Last year, different today? Yeah. It just keeps changing. It keeps changing because it says um, in More About Alcoholism, the man of 30, what was his relapse about? He failed to enlarge his spiritual life. It says it right in there in More About Alcoholism. And I was like, well, I don't want to relapse. And I want all these promises. I want them all. I want them all. And it was hard for me to not want them all now because I'm an addict. I want it now, like Veruca Salt in the Chocolate Factory. I don't care how, I want it now. It's like my theme song. And but I waited. I'm going to say the stickiest one for me was fear of economic insecurity will leave me. That was the big one for me. And I things always materialize if you work for them. I just kept working my ass off, praying my ass off, and I kept and then step 12. We can't forget step 12. Even this website feels like part of step 12. I love being a part of this blog because my step 12 enlarges me spiritually. It tells me that having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. So I did the steps, I got the spiritual awakening, but there's even, more and more levels of, I call it spiritual maturity. I just came across that in a book, study book that I did with a study buddy recently. I found, I always called it spiritual growth, but then I read spiritual maturity and I thought, oh, I love that. That's just like, so it's like, I'm not like stupid. I'm just maturing and I'm always maturing in different ways. And then it tells me that I try to carry this message to other food addicts. All I can do is try. I mean, and so this is a leg of that, as well as sponsoring people and taking people through the steps. Well, it's like it says in the big book, like helping others is like the bright spot of our day, of our life, and it's like, damn, who would have thunk? When I thought I had to carve out time out of my life to sit down with somebody else's recovery, and it's like, who's got time for that? You know, I say, who doesn't have time for that? You know, and then it says, and then we practice these principles in all our fields, on all our fears. These principles that I kind of gathered along the way of like, how about not being a jerk? How about just shutting your mouth? How about thinking about other people before yourself? Like, how about it? Just think about it. Just get curious about it. Give it a whirl and see how good it feels. So I just find that with time, with 10, 11, and 12, not week 10, 11, and 12, not the one 10, 11, 12 just to squeak by. I'm talking about 10, 11, and 12. That's the light switch is on, like it's on and it's bright. Okay. And I come to meetings. I don't outgrow meetings. I don't outgrow having to hear people talk about their recovery or their lack of recovery or their long-term abstinence. Yay! They struggling to get abstinence. I can just pray for them. and I have prayers, 2 prayers scotch taped right on my laptop on either side of my mouse. And when I'm on a meeting and somebody is struggling, I have my struggling prayer. It's just a quick couple of words that I just say in right in that moment when I know they're struggling. And it just says, "Dear God, may fill in the blank, may so and so feel your glory soon, stay extra close." It's really all I mean, I can't pick what I want for that person. I don't know what that person needs, you know. And then my other one, when somebody shares something and I can just feel their their gratitude and their recovery and how grateful they are. And I used to do this and now I'm doing this, like, oh, and it's just like, it just fills you right up. And I have this one, I just say, "I witness that you have touched so and so. Thank you. You are so kind and loving. Amen." And it's just, those are my 2 little quickie go-tos for meetings. I need meetings. I haven't graduated from anything. So uh, I've been working this program hard for 7 years. I was in program for 3 years in my 40s, not working it hard. I was doing, like, it was just like basically a diet with group support. It was like I was using it like Jenny Craig, with Jenny Craig with therapy. That's what it felt like. And I didn't share. I didn't talk. I stayed in the back of the room. Nobody knew me. I was working nothing. I was just like, I was just doing this program, Lulu a la carte. I'm going to do this, not going to do that. I like this part, don't like that part. And that's not working for it. So nothing was going to materialize, and I wasn't going to keep my abstinence. Although you could have fooled me, because I would thought when I was like 2 years in, I was like, look at me. You know, I'm abstinent 2 years without doing everything that you're doing. Nah, 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 nah. You know, and then then the devil bit me in the butt a year later and said, "Nope, no free ride for you, Lulu." No free ride. So then I did another decade and a half of research and development and pain and fat and diets and up and down and crazy and drinking and smoking, and until I just said, I think I'm done. I think I'm done. So I'm just going to wrap that up. They will always, all of those beautiful promises that seem so out there to actually, if you actually sat and imagined each of them coming true, you'd be like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, really? Well, maybe if this person wasn't around, I could feel that way. Or maybe if this didn't happen to me when I was a kid, I could feel this way. You could go on and on with all the stories you want, but all the stories get unraveled in the 4th step, which is the beauty of that's more of the work that makes these things materialize. It's all part of the big picture. And, it's like, sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly, and it just wait for it. Just wait for it. And while you're waiting, grow closer to God. Focus on that relationship, and everything else just feels so much better, in my opinion. Shalece, what do you got on this promise?
Lulu, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, so much meat in this particular thought that the promises evolve as we continue to work for it. And I would say that the joy can be found in the evolution. That as I was listening to Lulu speak, I was kind of looking back on so I've got 7 years of abstinence, but really about 4.5 years of, no, maybe 4 years of real recovery. And that I would consider like a solid recovery. And looking back over my step work, as I was working steps 4, 5, 6, 9, many of these promises came true for me. And one that didn't really, it wasn't really woven into my 4th step. The financial insecurity was something that that really still plagued me even after my step work. But through 10th steps, and just things that would come up, new truth, new understanding of my personal value as a wife and a mother, my personal value as just a human being in general, kind of helped clear away some of the fear that I experienced. And I love that that particular promise, says the fear of economic insecurity will leave us. And that's really where the problem is. It's the fear. It's not, has nothing to do with money. It has to do with the fear. And so I remember working one that really evolved that, working on one resentment that really evolved kind of my thoughts about money. And it was actually a resentment that had to do with me seeking medical attention for myself, and how I could easily seek medical attention for my loved ones, but I was concerned about spending money on myself, get some blood work done and different things. Well, let's do a 10 step on this. It's not like I'm angry with someone or irritated with someone. It was just a fear. And so I was able to put it on paper and work it out with my sponsor back and forth via email. And we got on a session, I think, with this one, and really at that point shifted my thoughts about my personal value as a human being, and that I didn't need to be afraid to use resources for myself as well. I am of value and I am of worth. And so just watching that little shift kind of was a piece for me in the evolution of that financial insecurity. And even today, a few years later, that was probably about 3 years ago, and with working 10, 11, and 12, and particularly 11, just having a closer daily contact and conversations with God, God is moving me into like a deeper trust of his resources that are completely and totally endless. And how God reminds me, like, on a daily basis, that all of my needs have been met up to this point, and that they will continue to be met in his way and in his time. And so that for me is how my fear of economic insecurity is evolving today, is that that bringing God into every aspect of my life, my finances, my relationships, everything, that it's just, things just get brighter, things get better. And so for me, it's kind of just like this excitement and curiosity of what the future holds. I don't need to know what the future holds, but I do know that it's going to hold evolution of these promises for me as I continue to work them. And that, now that I just trust God today that he's going to take care of everything, so I don't need to do any more work. No, like, it can even get better than that. Like, I trust that where I'm at now, because of my experience of how my relationships and all of these things, these promises have evolved thus far, I can deduct from that even where I'm at now will evolve to a greater and deeper beauty and joy. So of course I'm going to work for it. Of course I'm going to work for it. And even, the way that I work, it has evolved. The way that everything about this process evolves for me. And I just want to say, I'm so grateful that Lulu and I, actually, I think this is our year anniversary of Step It Up. I don't know if it's the exact day that we did it. I can't remember. I would have to look back. But we have been working on this blog for a year. And when we decided that we were going to do this, it was kind of like hey, you want to try something? I got an idea. And Lulu was like, yeah, I'm in. I'll do it. How do we do it? I don't know. Let's just try it. And so we just set it up, and we're just like, okay, let's do this. Let's try this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And again, this idea has just evolved and grown and grown and grown. And again, as a part of our 12th step work, which is just joy. And it's still evolving today. It's growing, it's evolving. We're moving with it, changing with what else is going on in our lives. And so that to me is like just another thing, like everything in my life evolves. Nothing stays the same. So if I just keep myself open up, if I continue to stay curious, if I keep that connection with my higher power growing and strong, it's just inevitable that things are going to evolve and grow. That's what I've got. Lulu, do you have anything you want to add?
I just wanted to add one more thing about this the blog spot, 12 Step It Up. I find it really interesting how our 12th, this particular segment of our 12 step work is to help people with their 12 step work. I never really thought about it that way until you just said that, because I know my sponsees that have taken people through it, they're taking them through it through the guidance of recordings that they're in the best order that we can put them in. So now when sponsees say, like, how do I tell somebody, what do I do again for the, this, just go listen to that. I don't need to say it 5,000 times anymore. It's there, and it's I even use it for my sponsees. I find that it makes our work even more efficient in between sessions. I know some people in program talk to their sponsors every day, but I do weekly sessions with sponsees, and there's a lot of time in between sessions, and that time can be very useful for those that want to work it hard. These things materialize if you work for them, not when we meet 7 days later when you're like, well, I never really listened to those yet. I didn't have a chance. Oh, okay. Well, bye. you know, it's like, I try to carry the message, right? So, but I love that my sponsees are taking their sponsees through and have this tool. And I've had sponsees say to me, message me and just say, actually, a sponsee that I have that I did not sponsor with this, it was years ago, she's been in and she's still around. I probably worked with her. She was the first one I ever took all the way through. And that was probably about 6 years ago. And, or 5 or 6 years ago. And she just like messaged, and we were doing it on a notebook and writing in a notebook. And she would come to my house because we didn't meet people from all over the country and all over the world. Then we just met the people down the street, and so they just come to my house. I had people coming to my house all the time. And so now, she's sponsoring somebody in another country. And I told her, when she was always kind of looking for my advice to sponsor, and I still go to my sponsor for sponsoring advice too. I mean, we don't outgrow that, actually we probably utilize it more the more spiritually mature we are, when there's like less pride and you're just like, nope, something, I know somebody that knows better and I'll get back to you. Got to reach up in this program, just keep reaching up and reaching up. And she just said, like, wow, like that is like a godsend, that because it's not even like they have to send direct their sponsees to these recordings. They can listen to them themselves and sponsor from there. They could actually, they don't have to even they can use it as a sponsoring guide, or you can actually have your sponsees listen to it. So, as people ask questions and things that we haven't covered, because do we remember everything we talked about? I don't remember. We didn't plan one thing. So it's not like we have this like syllabus that we've been following and like, let's make sure we cover this. We don't even know what we're going to say when we show up. And I like that this is just in real time. This isn't Carnegie Hall. We make mistakes. I forget what I'm going to say. I couldn't find my paper. Like, whatever. I remember the first recording we make, I was like, oh, can we cut that part off? at the end because I said something stupid at the end. And I was like, let's cut that off. And she's like, let's not. And I was like, all right, why not? Let's just wing it, you know? And humility, you know, it's another principle we pick up in this. It's just like, whatever, you know? But it's just a joy. And I enjoyed talking about that promise. It was great. And it's just when you work it, it works.
I'm not going to lie, Lulu. When I told you no, that we weren't going to edit that off, it was because I didn't know how and I didn't want to learn.
You are a brat.
I know.
You're a brat. You're
And
a
that's why
sneaky,
you love me.
you're just a sneaky brat. You did something else to me a couple of weeks ago. Somebody emailed me and they said, I just listened to this recording of you and Shalece and you called her a little stinker. Remember I called you a little stinker? You did something. Oh, you said, yeah, I'll go first this one. And then you hit
And then
play.
I turned it right over to you.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah. And I'm just like, what was that? What was that? She's not respecting her elders.
Oh, I think, ladies first, seniority. Right? Okay. Thank you for joining us. Have the greatest day of your life.